James, there are times I look over at my husband and I never used to bother me, and I'm like, "I'm gonna stab you with that fork."
Yeah. I hear you, Melissa.
Welcome to Now What, a bold, honest podcast about reinvention in midlife where inspiration meets real life humor. I'm Melissa, and if you've felt the shift and wondered what's next, you're not behind. You're just getting started. Here, we laugh, we go there, and you will leave thinking, okay, I can do this. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's a plot twist. Let's go. Ladies, the men would like equal time. Because apparently, while we've been over here talking about menopause, the guys have their own midlife transition happening too. And it's called Andropause. And if you've never heard that word before, don't worry, neither had I. So today we're talking male mental health, midlife, relationships, and what happens when menopause and andropause show up in the same marriage at the exact same time. Ugh. My guest today is a coaching psychologist, men's health advocate, midlife expert, keynote speaker, and the author of The Midlife Male Handbook, a man's guide to thriving through andropause. So, squad, it's going to be a juicy one. Please join me in welcoming to Now What, James Davis. Woohoo! Welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Melissa. It's great to be here. What an introduction. Thank you.
Hey, I'm excited. This is a hot topic. I'm not joking, and I'm embarrassed to admit, but I feel like my listeners is too. I'd never heard of andropause.
It's a term that isn't really well known, even for men, let alone for women. And a lot of the work I do is trying to change that so that men have this frame of reference for what's going on for them in these middle life years and beyond. Because I guess we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but essentially a lot of men write off how they're feeling just to like, oh, it's just age, I'm just fatigued, it's just overwhelmed at the moment. And yeah, it can be all those things. But what we're not looking at is our testosterone and how that could have lowered and how that could be impacting us physically, psychologically. Plus, there's a lot of other psychological levers that get pulled for men as well due to like our cultural conditioning, which I'm sure we're going to get into.
Oh, totally, absolutely. So, at what age does it typically begin?
Yeah. So andropause can be defined as age-related testosterone decline. So for your listeners, it's probably easy to draw a comparison with menopause, right? So
Right.
for women, your primary sex hormone is estrogen.
Yes.
That will normally peak in your 30s, which is your peak fertile years, childbearing age. Then as you go into perimenopause, it will start fluctuating and then start to trail off and die away. But that's happening in quite a narrow space of time relative to your life cycle. So the symptoms can be quite pronounced. Like, typically women will know when they're going to perimenopause, menopause. Yeah, you're nodding your head. Of
Oh my
course.
God, I'm like I mean, you're talking to one of them right now. The mood
Yeah.
swings, the nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
feel
can be
like I'm
rough.
an alien in my own body.
Yeah. That's what I hear. That's what I hear a lot. I mean, I'm also blessed. I go into organizations and I do menopause allyship work to male audiences, helping them understand the menopause and what females are experiencing. So I feel really blessed to be able to do that work as well.
Okay, wait. What is the reaction to that? Are guys like, yeah, whatever, menopause, or has it been well received?
It has been well received, and I've done audiences from blue chip organisations that's your white collar through to guys in overalls working a power plant. And I say interested there. What normally happens though is I run through the workshop. I'm like, okay, then I've got questions, looking for interaction. People are quite quiet, but when I finish, they'll all come running up to me because they want to ask out loud. But you get some real eureka moments when I explain, how hormones can affect mood, particularly the hot flashes, like how uncomfortable they are, and you kind of see these light bulb. One guy actually said to me, he's like, "I think you might have just saved my marriage." And I was like, wow, okay, great.
Do you give them tips on like, yes, don't ask them a lot of questions. Just
Yeah.
nod your head. Don't try to fix it for him. Or like, what are some of your
Yeah, I do. Listen, I'd say,
James? I'm here to
yeah.
help you.
But the thing is, right, so So for men, the andropause is likely to occur at a similar stage in the life cycle. I think your question asking is like,
Yeah.
when will that happen? So
Right.
so for men, our testosterone will peak in our 20s, and then it tails off at like 1 to 2% a year, which doesn't sound a lot. But when you're compounding it, by the time we're hitting our 40s, our 50s, it could be 30 to 50% lower. So it's a little bit more insidious. You know, we haven't got this sudden like drop and we're like, oh, I feel different. It's like,
Right.
oh, I just got no get up and go. I've got no motivation, anxiety. I'm not as confident, maybe libido issues.
I was gonna
But
say your sex drive, I assume,
yeah,
diminishes.
sex drive could fluctuate or drop away. There might be erectile dysfunction issues.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, that's happening at a similar point in the life cycle as a female's going through menopause. So there is the potential there for a huge disconnect, let's say.
Disaster is the word that
Yeah.
comes to my mind, but you're more
Yeah.
PC disconnect. Okay, so uh, okay, one thing I am gonna say,
Mm.
this is the year of disruption for me. Okay, so I was talking to some of my friends and about I was so excited that you're coming on. So I'm gonna be honest with you, was the first reaction. Now I'm talking about women. Okay, I'm talking to
Mhm.
women. When I heard the term andropause and I told my friends about it, their reaction was, "Are you serious? Are men really trying to steal menopause now too?" Like,
Yeah.
really? We can't even have our own menopause.
Oh,
Now they have to have their own thing, and now we're gonna focus on them. I'm just throwing it out there,
yeah.
not to be disrespectful. But what do you say to that? To prove me that I'm wrong, or like, what would
Yeah.
you say if someone in your workshop
I
looks
get
at
that
it
a
that way?
lot.
That's not a fair reaction.
Yeah, I get that a lot. And, you know, I was talking about andropause the other day, and a woman just actually rolled her eyes at me, and I was like, "Look, the thing is, they're completely separate processes. They are distinct and separate, and there's no way arguing that menopause, because it's happening in this narrow window of time. Although I appreciate it feels like a long time, right, when you're in perimenopause, but that's why the symptoms are more pronounced. So they are worse for women. But what I say is like, it's not a competition. Have you not noticed that maybe your partner, maybe your brother, maybe your father, that they've withdrawn, that they're not themselves, that they're quieter, that they're isolating themselves more? And then everything is like the suicide rate for midlife men is
Mhm.
almost 5 times higher than for women of all ages.
Are you serious? Worldwide? Or is that
It's pretty consistent across the Western world. Yeah.
Oh my god, James, that's crazy. James, that's a crazy statistic.
Yeah.
Well, and do you feel like, and this goes into a future question, but like one of my questions is, in general, women have talk about, have their friendships are very important in their lives. So, and women talk, you know, I'm in generalize, but are very open to talking about what's going on in their lives. And it seems like men aren't as comfortable. So is one of the issues like men just they're not talking about it and so they're holding it in and they feel like they're alone. And how do
Yeah,
you change
there's a
that?
few issues. It's multi-layered. You know, the first is, you know, testosterone. You know, it's kind of got a bad name, right? Because we think of it in sports and like that kind of the doping out. Like, I want to like put on more muscle and be more aggressive. And yes, if you overdo it, that's the role it plays. But
Right.
it's your get up and go woman, and what gives you confidence, and what gives you drive plays a major role in your, you know, your healthy sexual function. So if it's low, uh, you're going to start to not just have the direct impact of that, but there's the indirect impact of the psychological levers that are being pulled. Like, oh, you know, I've got no energy. I used to be this energetic guy. Men tend to define themselves a lot by their physicality and or by their job role. You know, and as we get older, the job role tends to be less fulfilling. We might be made redundant. And then all the research says, to your point, like men are less good than women at growing and maintaining their social networks. In fact, the research says as we age, men's networks get smaller and smaller. Why? Most men are focused on career. That's their identity. Their friendships, in inverted commas, are in work. So they're not really friendships. They're kind of acquaintances. Again, the research says even when men are in social situations, they don't really open up about what's going on for them. And they're much slower to go to their primary health provider, like that, to their doctor or to a coach or a mentor to seek help than women. You know, and we see this, you know, this, a group of women all get together and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm having these terrible symptoms with menopause, but I'm trying this thing. And they'll talk about it. Oh, you know, nothing's off the table. The guys will just be like, yeah, you see the match last, you know, and they're using metaphors to describe how they're feeling rather than getting to the bottom of what's going on for themselves.
So James, I just had my husband Shannon on the podcast a few weeks ago, and we were talking about midlife from a man's perspective. That's why the timing of you and I connecting was amazing. And what surprised me is that he didn't talk about hormones. The word
Mm.
testosterone never, nothing health wise really got brought up. But what he talked about was career, his purpose, what his achievements at that age, success, right? How he measures success. And where he was in a stage of his life. Was he where he thought he would be? Was he where it had nothing to do with physicality.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's another reason why, I mean, like I said, I never heard this word andropause. And, and so getting it out there is really important. But I think that's, like you just said, that's common for most men.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's not being talked about, because it's not widely known. Men just aren't aware that it's a thing. That they're chalking all kinds of physical symptoms like increased belly fat, losing muscle mass, loss of strength, loss of energy, just to aging. And yeah, that does play a role, but it could be the lower testosterone as well. But as you were saying with your husband, this is something I have all the time. I do leadership work with organizations. I have private clients, and it's these kind of existential questions, and it's so interesting. It's kind of like flip sides of the same coin. It tends to be like, I am where I thought I wanted to get to, but now I'm there. It feels kind of empty. It's not what I thought it would be, and I can't believe I sacrificed so much to get it. Or it's like, I thought I'd be much further ahead by now, and I'm not. And they're flip sides of the same coin. And it really, I think, a midlife is at our point. We become more aware of our mortality. We know the clock's ticking.
Right.
But rather than seeing it as a kind of negative thing, I think it's a really positive thing to say, okay, well, great, this is where I am now. What have I learned, and where do I want to go next? How do I want to show up in the next 20, 30 years of my life? What do I want to achieve there? Because a lot of the work I do is around values. When we're young, we're often really like passionate about our values. We know what they are, and they inform our choices. We're like, oh, I really believe in this thing, and then that will inform what we study, what we work. But of course, over time, with experience, our values change, but we don't check back in on them. So suddenly we're like, I'm doing this thing that I thought I loved, and I've got all this stuff that I thought I wanted, but my life just feels kind of flat and empty. Why is that? So, well, your values have changed. That stuff, you know, person A that you were got you to this point, but maybe you need to now look at being person B to feel fulfilled in the next phase of your life.
Okay, so women listening to this right now, and maybe she's thinking like, "Oh my gosh, this sounds maybe my husband is going through this. Maybe it's all the above. It's the mental, it's the physical. What is your suggestion? What is the first step that he or she should do? Like, where do
I
you go
think,
if you're a guy? I mean, you go to your doctor.
yeah, I mean, it's harder if you're a guy. I mean, thankfully, like there's so much more information out there now around the menopause. There's tons of books, there's TV shows. It's great. And yeah, this could still be more, of course. For guys, it's a lot harder. I'd say if you're a woman, you're worried about your partner, just try opening a conversation with them. Go, honey, it'd be really great. Like curious. What do you see the next phase of our life together being? Where do you think we're going next? And just like kind of steer him to start thinking about those things.
Mhm.
Um, if you're a guy, I'd say like get online and do some research, right? Just find out about low testosterone. Don't click on these ads that say you need testosterone. Like go and get a private test and get it. Do not do that, because you might not need it. Like, you can go and research and find what the levels are, the blood levels are that are healthy. Don't just go and take it. Also, warning for you, I know in the US, testosterone replacement therapy is a lot more popular than in the UK, but it's not for everyone, right? There are certain contraindications for certain health conditions. And the main thing is, once you're on it, it's a lifetime commitment, because you'll shut down your own natural testosterone production. So you just think, do I want to be taking this for the rest of my life, or can I make some lifestyle adjustments to potentially bring my testosterone levels back up naturally, and then check them again in 5, 10 years time?
James, you bring up such a good point. We talk about this all the time is yes, there's so much information out there, which is great. However, you have to research the source
Mm.
because there's so much false information. And yes, so if you haven't figured out, James is across the pond. We're going international today, squad. This is very exciting. Um, it's also, women's health is a huge market and we are targeted by the latest pill, by the latest, because guess we'll spend our money. So it sounds like also a good step is do you go to your doctor and at least just get a blood test to see where your a hormone blood test just to see maybe your testosterone's fine and then maybe you need to work more on the mental aspect versus or your testosterone dropped.
Exactly. I say that. Listen, if you're a man like in your 40s or older, and you've noticed some of these symptoms that we've talked about here that they've been consistent, go to your doctor and just ask. Just say, look, I want a blood test. I want my overall testosterone and my free testosterone. This is really important.
Okay, let's highlight that again. Say that again.
Your overall testosterone levels and your free, because about 98% of testosterone in our body is bound to processes. So it's actually the free amount that matters. So finding that out is kind of crucial, not just the overall. Although, so it's possible to be healthy, normal range, but your free could be low. Likewise, it is possible to be low, but your free could be quite high. So you want to try and find, and your doctor will know what you're talking about. Just say, I want my overall testosterone and then my free testosterone.
I'm so glad you specified that because this is a few years ago. I had blood work done, and I'm like, something is off. Like, I'm just not myself. Had the blood work done. Oh, you're fine. You're great. I'm like, not that I wanted there to be a problem, but I wanted an answer, right? And then I went to another doctor, like, no, we need to test like a level. I don't know. I'm not to your surprise. I'm not a medical person. Anyways, long story short, it turned out like, oh yeah, this is actually, I forget what it was, but that's why sometimes you'll go and you'll get these tests. And you're like, well, my doctor said I'm fine because the results came back fine, but it's to be specific on what you need to be tested for.
Yeah. And I'd
Okay.
say also try
Yeah.
and go first thing in the morning. Testosterone levels are generally elevated in the morning. If you can be fasted, like get up, don't have breakfast before you go. All these things can help. But also, you know, go back for a second test, maybe a couple of weeks later, because hormones fluctuate, and where you are one day
Right.
might not be where you are the next day.
Right. Okay. So just to get some data and find a
Yeah,
doctor that like you can speak to. It's
yeah,
hard here to find good
yeah.
doctors.
And this is a
Everyone's going
basic test, and it shouldn't
concierge.
be expensive. It shouldn't be expensive. So it's like a basic test.
Right. Oh, totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your own journey real quick.
Yeah.
So, what was happening in your life? Have you gone through and am I allowed to ask you this? Have you gone through
Yeah.
andropause?
I think
How
I
did
think
you get into this?
yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm probably in it. So I was talking about this stuff. I was going to organizations talking about men's health, talking about andropause. We're going back quite a few years now. And I always remember there was a couple of things. I delivered a whole workshop for an international bank, a whole series of workshops, like a program. And I remember that the guy, one of the questions at the end, the guy was like, this has been really good, but like, is all this information like in one place in a book? And I was like, oh, no. I thought, I have to write the book. And so writing a book is not easy. It's kind of like written a bit, put down. But just before I turned 50, so during COVID, actually, I worked with my wife, but things were going really well. Like our business was really going really, really well. We're managing to escape lockdowns to go and live in Marbella in Spain. So we're
Mhm.
living like, on the beach. But my wife hasn't actually called it. She's like, you're not the same person. Like you don't want to go out. You're not speaking to anyone. I can see you've got no motivation. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You know what? I think what I talk about all the time, I'm going through it. So,
Oh my
you
gosh,
know,
that's fascinating.
yeah, luckily I had the toolkit. And for me, it was more about, okay, I know this is a mental thing. For me, I'm going to clean up my diet, get my training dialed in to do the physical work, but I'm going to really lean into the psychological side. And this is something that's not talked about, I think, for men or women enough. Like in the Western world, we're very focused on what I call the external. It's like, oh, this diet will help me lose weight, or this diet will help give me more energy, or this workout. But look, our brain chemistry and our brain structure changes with age. Like we become more and more risk averse. Humans are programmed to be negative anyway, right? It's part of our evolutionary survival mechanisms. Knowing that we have a negative mindset, knowing that we get more risk averse, what are we going to do to counteract that so we stay positive and optimistic? So I had to lean into that. And then, I mean, long story short, I did have blood tests. I had come low. So then I went away. I just did loads of work, and then I got back up to healthy normal range, and I felt fine ever since.
That's great. This is what I love. Here you are. This is your business. And even you yourself was kind of like, oh, I don't know what's wrong. Or like your wife had to point out, like, you're really off. So I
Yeah.
think lesson number one is to, if you're, in a relationship or a friend or whatever, and your partner seems low, is have the conversation. Obviously, in a nice, sounds like she came about it nice, not being like, God, you're a real loser and jackass. What's wrong? There's a way
Exactly.
too. I've been learning, my husband and I, we were in therapy a few years ago, just because everyone needs a tune up. And apparently my
Yeah.
communication skills were a little too direct and harsh. So
Oh, I love that though. That's great.
there is a way. It all comes down to communication, seriously.
It does come down to communication. And what I'd say on that is, most men of our age group, like who are middle aged now, we were raised in a very different culture. We weren't given perhaps the emotional framework or the emotional language to express how we feel. And I know what I experienced was I was like, I know something's off. I can't figure out what it is or put a label on it. So my default mode is to try and stick my head in the sand and hope it's going to go away and hide from it. And this is what I hear from men all the time. Because,
Avoidant.
yeah, we've been taught, if you've got a problem, keep quiet. That old suck it up, buttercup, big boys don't cry. And there's a time and a place for that. But when you're really know that there is something wrong, it takes courage to face it and go, okay, I actually want to explore this and try and figure this out. I need to put words to it. I need to find the language to express it to myself, to my partner, because only by understanding it and being aware of it can we start to come out the other side.
I bet you have just so many men come up to you afterwards and just thank you for starting the conversation because they're just scared to even start it, but it's so needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is like about 2 years ago, I was in a pub, and I just got chatting to two guys at the bar. I just chat to random people. Anyway, I had a really nice chat with them, and they asked me what I do, and I was saying, oh, about the Andropause, and the guy was just like asking me so many questions. And at the end, he went, you know what? He said, I meet all these guys every week at the school gates, and we talk and we go out. He said, well, we never have conversations like this. And I said, well, there's your challenge. That's why you've met me. Now go and have these conversations with your friends.
Oh my God. I literally just got goosebumps. It's just like, yeah, just start it.
Yeah.
It's just starting it. Okay. For the men listening and for the women out there, you have to play this for your men. Challenge them to start the conversation because it may be uncomfortable at first, I'm sure, but it's needed and it will end up being a very positive. I mean, I don't know. My girlfriend and I talk about it all the time. We don't know how we would get by without each other.
Yeah.
You guys are missing out. Just get a different perspective just so you don't feel alone. Right? So I'm sure you all like when you talk to guys and men, like, oh, I felt like I was the only one, but
Yeah.
no.
This is it. A lot of guys feel very alone with it. It's, it plays on their mind, and they think, I'm probably the only person that feels like this. Again, because it's not talked about. They don't have the language to express it. But what I find is like when you volunteer some information, when you say, oh, this is what's been going on for me, it actually gives permission for the other person to open up as well and go, oh, I'm so glad you said that because I've been feeling this way or that way. And it's just about having those honest conversations, I think. And, I think as men, we can do a much better job of kind of leaning into those with each other. Where men are really good at what I call like displacement activities or let's just meet up and drink loads of beer, which has its place and it's great for bonding. But yeah, we need to also talk about what's going on for us,
Totally. So have you seen couples that think they have a huge marriage problem, but what they really have is the woman's in menopause and the man is in andropause?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting phenomenon, isn't it? We're seeing midlife divorce rates like increase all the time. and most of them are triggered by the female partner. And it's a really, I get fascinated. I'm a bit of a history geek, so I get fascinated by all the kind of societal culture. And obviously, you know, if you go back even like 40 years, women didn't have the earning power as men. They weren't financially free. You know, we say
Right.
there's still some way to go, right? But most women now go like, well, I can stand on my own 2 feet. I can go. I'm financially independent. So that thing that was perhaps keeping people stuck in a relationship has gone. But maybe that's not always a good thing, because certainly I know there's more research coming out about people that divorce and then regret it like 2 or 3 years later. They're like, I was going through a kind of a phase and my hormones are playing up, and now I'm at the other side. Oops. So I'd say it's about, as you said, communication, right? It can be a tricky time for both partners. So it's, how do you manage to balance your individual needs with your partner's needs at this time of life? And it's about just having some compassion. And it can be really hard because in the moment, right, you're like, oh, I'm going through this and I feel this way. And now they're acting like this and I just can't cut this. It's just like taking a breath, taking a pause. A really powerful thing you can do, ideally at the start of the day, but any time of day, is check in with your partner. Because a lot of the time, right, we get up, we flow into our day, and we're assuming that we know what's going on for them because we know them so well, right? And like, oh, Melissa's thrown the tea towel down. Oh, she's but you might not be. Yeah, you saw something. So you just check in. It's like, hey, just wanted to spend 5 minutes checking in with you, look in each other's eyes. We don't tend to hold eye contact as much anymore because of devices. And just say, oh, this morning, you know, I woke up, I was feeling like this. So if I'm behaving this way, this is probably the reason why. Can you bear with me? The role of the partner is just to listen, not say anything, because often we listen to respond, right? When the person's finished, just paraphrase back to them. Go, oh, so what I'm hearing is this morning you woke up feeling like this, and this means this, and they'll go, yes, and you do that, and then that, you'll be surprised how that quickly that can like diffuse any tension and any misunderstanding.
I just saw like a thing on a meme or something on social media about how to have your kids feel heard and understood. And literally what you just said about how to talk to your teenagers is the same thing about how to talk to your partner, right? We all just want to know that we're being heard and understood.
Yeah.
And, or even if you don't understand what I'm saying, you hear me. You
Yeah.
hear me and you support me. There's another meme that there's this guy on social media. I forget who he is. He does this thing where he's a comedian and his whole thing is about menopause. And he's like, okay, men, you need to learn from my mistakes. Unfortunately, I made a mistake. I'm telling you this, to not do this so you don't get your wife upset, but I chewed my food too loudly this morning. I was dying because, James, there are times I look over at my husband and I never used to bother me. And I'm like, I'm going to stab you with that fork.
Yeah. I hear you, Melissa. And listen, it goes both ways. Although, you know, from my experience, it's more often the female that's getting annoyed. But I say for the men out there listening, like, here's some great golden advice for you. And this is not about not having boundaries, but it's like, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Sometimes it's okay to let things slide for the happier life than be like, oh no, I'm going to make a stand at this. And suddenly, you know, you're in an argument that's gone on for 2 hours and it was over something ridiculous. And you're like, how have I ended up here? This isn't what I wanted to do with my day, you know? So
Yeah.
just try to remember that.
James, I think that's so important. In fact, that's the advice. It's funny how the correlations of kids and because it's all relationships. When I first had my baby, my friend said, best piece of advice I can give you is give your partner some just leadway, right? You're both exhausted. You're both petrified. I mean, it's shocking they send you away from the hospital. They're like, you can go now. You're like, you trust me with this life right now? Like, you're going to let me leave the hospital? So you're freaked out. You're exhausted. Just, you know, give each other some leadway. Don't turn up. You're going to snap at each other. You just let it go. And so, yeah, it's similar. It's like, it's that thing, like, don't sweat the small stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. What are women, in your opinion, misunderstanding about men during midlife?
That's a great question. I think they're misunderstanding that there can be hormonal or slash physiological things going on for men. Um, I don't know what it's like in the States, but over here we see a lot of mainstream press about what they call irritable male syndrome, and it's kind of poking fun at men that have become more irritable and don't want to go out and isolate themselves. And I'm like, well, this is quite interesting because if we were to flip those gender roles around and a woman was going through the menopause and like, oh, look at the irritable women like with their menopause, it'd be outcry. We wouldn't do it, but it's okay for men, and it's not helpful. So I think understanding that yes, there could be something physiological, hormonal going on that's making them behave this way, but also they might feel quite lost. And when they feel lost, quite scared, no man wants to admit that he's scared. But when you're unsure of what's going on for yourself, when your sense of identity is in flux, and it's interesting to say what we're saying about teenagers. I always say like midlife is like your second teenage, like your hormones are fluctuating. You don't know really who you are anymore. You're questing for your new identity. Remember how confusing being a teenager was. Like the similar thing is going on here. So just I say have some awareness and some compassion for maybe what they're going through.
Wow, I think that's really, really a good point. It would never cross my mind that with my husband, it's a physical thing. That it could be hormonal, it could be whatever. I mean, it's just right now, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna flip the script though. So what are men, in your opinion, misunderstanding about women during menopause?
I think they misunderstand how at the mercy of fluctuating hormones females can be and how that can affect mood, especially. Yes, the physical symptoms can be really uncomfortable and they in turn can cause emotion issues, but the mood switch, lots of perimenopausal we talk about having like intense rage coming out of nowhere. I think, I know. And look, guys, don't just be like, "Ugh, hormones blowing up again," because that's just going to make it worse. But just like, yeah, take a step back. You just take a step back and breathe and just be like, okay, try not to take it personally. And this is the thing, like when someone we love is angry at us, it triggers our fears of rejection, right? It's like, well, because our brilliant subconscious negatively wired. It's like, what if this spirals all the way and we end up splitting up? And also it's the fear of rejection, which just means we go into like offensive defense mode. We're like, don't speak to me like that. What about this? What you want to do is just go, okay, don't say it, but in your head, I recognize this is your hormones probably at the moment. I'm going to take a step back. Let's just let the situation calm down and if it's an issue, let's come back to it another time. Just say like, okay, when would be a good time to talk about this again?
James, I'm obsessed with you. Man, you have to listen to James and keep it in your head.
Okay,
The most important thing is that you can think it. Believe me, us women, we think crazy shit.
Yeah.
But don't blurt it out. Oh my God. Okay, before I let you go, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
I could talk.
I'm just going to say then, Melissa, I'm saying this. Listen, don't think I'm preaching a place of perfection. This is much easier to say than it is to do. Like I still get this wrong all the time, and it's about learning from your mistakes as well. Going, oh, right, I did that and it didn't go so well. What am I going to do differently next time?
And don't worry, the feedback loop will be
with a silver fan on your head.
Yeah, you'll get that feedback immediately of whether that went over well or not. Oh, yeah, we all have been there. That's why I'm dying. Okay, a few things. Tell us about your book.
Yeah, so I wrote the book really, as I said, like, I was talking about this stuff. I realized that it was not one book where it was talked about, where it was talking about age-related testosterone decline, but also all the psychological factors that can issue behavior. So it's really a dive into the psyche and I guess the hormones and physiology of the midlife man. So it gives them a framework to understand what they might be experiencing. And then it's also packed with action steps you can take. So there's a 30-day program at the end. And again, it's physical stuff, like, so basically moving your body, minimizing processed foods, sugars, moving to a healthy diet, all that stuff is going to help your hormone pathways. But it's also, like we said, doing those psychological exercises in the morning, like what am I grateful for? Like, what are 3 things from yesterday that I'm grateful for? Because we want to rewire our thinking into that more positive state. So that's the book. I have had women send me photos of it on their husband's bedside table saying I've just left it there for them. So, it's available on Amazon, and other online retailers.
Okay, well, this is probably episode's going to air after Father's Day in the U.S. Do you guys celebrate Father's Day in the UK?
Yeah, it's this Sunday for us. So I think
Okay, same.
yeah, okay, great.
There's always a great belated. I mean, you can always use this, but I'm buying this
Yeah.
for my husband. Okay, so it's on Amazon.
Yeah,
Ooh,
and it should be on other retailers like I guess Barnes and Noble or whoever you've got over there.
Yeah. And what's your website?
So my website is James P. Davis, and that's davis.com. And then the website that I run with my wife is called themidlifementors.com.
Okay. So last 2 things. What is one thing a man could do right now after listening to this that would help them start their journey through this midlife? That's why I named my podcast Now What. It's like, I wanted to name it WTF, like, now what the F do I do? Because we're just dazed and confused. So I know my answer is I'm like, go buy the book. Do you get one of them?
Go buy the book.
Yeah, go buy the book.
So men tend to want to learn. In secret's the wrong word, but they want to go away and research it. So the book is a great place to start. But I'd say like reach out to a friend, reach out to a male friend. There'll be someone that you've been thinking about. You should spend more time with, or just have a conversation with. Just reach out to them, and just see where the conversation goes. Because I'm a big believer that we need to start building those connections as men. We need to like keep our friendship groups, increase those friendship groups. So speak to a friend and get the book.
Love that. I love that because yes, I absolutely love that. Okay. And last but not least, what I ask all my guests is, now what? Now what for James? Now what for this midlife, andropause? What's on the horizon?
Well, I'm lucky. Like I was doing this work before the book, but the book's opened a lot of doors. So I now am doing a lot more corporate work, going to organizations, talking about this, but also talking about things like leadership performance, delivering keynotes at events. But I guess the exciting news is that with my wife, Claire, we're writing a book about when andropause meets menopause. And that'll be out in November, early November. So we're working on that right now.
Oh my God. Will you both come on when that is done?
Absolutely, we would love to.
Oh my God. I would love that. James, thank you so much. I think this is so important. You have totally turned around. I know my friends in my audience, if they were cynical about like, oh great, we can't even have our own menopause, men have to take it over. But that's not the right approach. Like, it's just not. We're all in this life together. Everyone needs help and support. You totally, like, if anyone was on the edge, I think really helped clarify and explain why this does need a lot of attention. And it's okay to ask for help and support, especially if you're a man.
Yeah,
Especially if you're-
absolutely.
Well, James, thank you so much.
Melissa, thank you for having me on and let me talk about all this stuff.
Anytime. And all the links will be in the show notes. And I will be sending you a picture of this book, not only on my husband's bedside table, but in his hands reading it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And that's it for this week. If this episode made you laugh, nod, or think, oh my God, same, hit follow, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs it. You're not done. You're just getting started. So go take up space, fully, loudly, joyfully. And remember, midlife isn't a crisis, it's a plot twist. See you next time on Now What?